Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom, family. I want to say peace, love to the listening audience. I am your brother Zion Lexx coming to you live. As you guys can see on the screen, I literally have our brother Austin Trout with us. You guys are in for quite a treat tonight. I'm going to need everyone to thumb up the video. I'm going to need you guys to share the live because we are literally about to get it in, family. Make sure you guys thumb up the video. Make sure you guys share the live. We're actually doing that on all of our platforms right now. Give me a quick second. I'm going to give you a nice introduction, my brother, as you deserve. T minus a couple seconds, and here we are about to go. Let me just share these links. Family, for those coming in new, make sure you guys are sharing the links. We want everybody to be able to watch this. So, family, share the live link. Share the live link. Share the live link. Moderators, share the link on all of our YouTube platform. Make sure that everyone can watch this video live with us. With that being said, all right. With that being said, let me say this. When we talk about celebrities, and when we talk about people of notoriety and people of rank, very seldom in the conscious community do we get to discuss, the careers of people who are involved in sports entertainment. Being that I'm a major sports fan, especially and particularly boxing, tonight is particularly a very special honor. I have our brother who goes by the name of Austin, no doubt Trout. Our brother has an amazing career in the boxing world, and his career is still in process. I would like the family to give a warm welcome to our brother, Austin, no doubt Trout. Peace, shalom, much love to you, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Moray. Shalom. Shalom to everybody out there. Much love. I appreciate you having me.
Excellent, man. Let me ask you a question. For people who are new to boxing on a whole, I would like for you to kind of give us an understanding of who Austin Trout is in terms of your upbringing. So, how does your life journey start?
Well, weird starting. As a black man in New Mexico, born and raised. My story starts in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is a small city on the border of New Mexico, Texas, and Mexico. So that's where I grew up. Um, Good place to grow up, or used to be. It's getting a little rough. We've gone through a lot of different things, cartel wars, just the influx of drugs and things like that. But it's a good city. It's a good small town vibe. The tribe of Issachar is running rampant out there, so I'm very, very familiar with with my amigos. But I grew up in a single parent home. My mom, she worked as a nurse a lot. And so she wasn't sleeping, getting ready for work. She was at work type deal, but she was a huge boxing fan. I remember she used to always get the fights at the little parties and whatnot. So I gravitated towards that sport, and not to mention, being in fourth, fifth grade, I was real small for my age. So basketball and football was not something that my mother even wanted me to be in because I was so little. But when I found out about boxing and that, not only do you fight somebody your size, but it has to be your age and your experience level back in the amateurs. So many fights could only fight so many fights. It helped. It was like the sport for me. I thought, that was like that's perfect. I could be as small as I want to be and still, fight people my size. So boxing definitely was I think tailor made for me. And ended up bringing out my inner athlete, I'd like to say.
Did you
So
did you fight a lot as a child, like actual school fights or neighborhood fights?
absolutely, that's one of the reasons why my mother was like, "Yeah, you need some training, bro. Like since you're gonna be in these fights, let's give you
Right.
some leg up. You're getting beat up, kid."
So to those of us who live in the urban cities of America, Explain to us what a fight is like in New Mexico, because for most of us, when we think about New Mexico, we don't even realize that it's ridden with crime. So if you can give us a backdrop of the city so that we can understand why you would even be fighting.
Well, again, it's not a city as most people would think about as a city. It's small, 100,000 people, I think. Then we got to 150,000 by now. But at the same time, when there's not much to do, there's really fighting is one of the things that we would do, even as a pastime activity. There's sometimes I got in a fist fight and I wasn't even really mad at the dude. It was kind of like, nah, all right, look, I'm gonna beat him up. Yeah, he said something I ain't like. Let's just fight. So we would meet in the desert, just to settle our beef, so to speak. But best believe, we used to get jumped a lot. Being at house parties was big out here in New Mexico. People you had problems with, you get jumped at, house parties, things like that. But we got in a lot of fights in my day. We didn't do too many shooting. Now there was, a couple shootings, here and there, but normally we could just settle it by getting a fist fight. So I tell people I grew up in the desert where, drinking and fighting was really the things to do, and I wasn't much of a drinker. So I was getting into a lot of stupid fights for no reason. And really once I was like deep into boxing, I knew I had more to lose. I was a little bit more, I'm not saying I stopped fighting, but I definitely pick and choose what I was going to fight for.
Right.
Because I had a tournament coming up, or, I can't mess up these hands, or, I was really serious about the boxing. So I credit boxing to keeping me out of trouble, a lot.
Now, let me ask you a question if I could burst through what might possibly be a myth. Sometimes when we hear about professional boxers, some of the things that are urban myths that might possibly be the truth is that once you become a professional boxer, your hand is actually registered. Explain to us what that means. What does that exactly entail to say that your hands are registered?
So, and I had to learn this the hard way. Probably 2 days after my pro debut, I'm at a party. I get the guy spits on me. We had, history. He's one of the guys that pulled the gun out. And when I hit him, I ended up cracking his jaw, like broke it.
Woo!
I had to go about my business like nothing was like, it's assault. You spit on me, it's assault, self-defense. That's good. Just because I turned pro, my hands automatically were registered as a lethal weapon. So I caught a felony assault charge.
Wow.
And I was sitting there confused, like, look, I never went to the DMV. I ain't
Right.
never, went and got insurance and nothing for these hands. I never did none of that. So I was like, how can they be registered? Like the fact that you are a professional, in combat, even if you, came from the military, you've been trained to be a weapon of some sort. That's what that means, that your hands are registered. And like Spider-Man's uncle said, with great power comes great responsibility. You can't just come socking people up now because you know how. In fact, the reason that you know how is more of a reason not to use it.
Excellent, excellent. Now, explain to us what the journey looks like for a boxer who's training in a gym and eventually becomes pro. Were you ever Golden Gloves? Did you ever fight on that level? Did you go to the Olympics?
Yeah, your amateur pedigree is what's going to determine how fast or how well taken care of you are going to be in the pros. Of course, people that were good in the amateurs don't always translate to pro, but they think that it's a good start. So as far as I was in the Golden Gloves, in fact, I fought Danny Jacobs in the Golden Gloves. I lost to him a split, a tiebreaker. I was Olympic alternate for 2004. So that means I won the Olympic trials and I lost in the box office. But I came out of nowhere. The cats didn't know who I was or where I came from. They thought I was a white dude coming from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Austin Trout, Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm gonna dust this dude, man. And so it wasn't. I wasn't as well known as say that Andre Berto was, or say as
Okay.
Andre Guerrero or Andre Ward. They've been stars since they were kids.
Right.
But once I didn't mature and I hit puberty, that's when it like started clicking. I'm hitting hard, I'm fast, I'm beating up guys I wasn't supposed to beat up, and I end up making it to the 2004 Olympics as an alternate. And,
Okay.
one of the greatest experience I've ever had in my life. I was around top athletes. That was the year LeBron turned pro. And
Right.
so, we in Greece on the boat, Queen Mary, kicking it with, basketball, these superstars. Um, and that's what really showed me that I belong with the elite as far as fighting goes, as far as sports goes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I have another question for you. So a lot of people don't understand because when we watch entertainers, we take what we take out of it for the most part as onlookers is the entertainment aspect. We don't understand the blood, we don't understand the sweat, and we definitely can't even see the tears most of the time. So a lot of people look at MMA because it's outwardly so bloody and gory. People like to think of MMA as a more dangerous sport. But a lot of people, I think personally, of this new era, sleep on the dangers of boxing. So, what I wanted you to speak towards is allow us to understand how dangerous the sport can be as well, because I actually know a lot of people that box. I've even boxed myself, by the way, just so you know. And most of the people that I know that I've sparred with or that I know personally, a lot of people walking around with dentures, a lot of
Yeah.
people walking around with, a cracked rib. I mean, these are things that happen very often. So let us understand some of the dangers of, a contact sport.
Well, one of the things that people have to keep in mind, Muhammad Ali, in the last fight that he fought, he walked out of that ring perfectly fine. He was, hugging his kids, kissing his kids, unhelped, unassisted. He had everything intact, spoke great, everything. It was the later on where all that stuff kind of caught up
Mm,
that took it out of him. And so really the real dangers is not it's not when the guy's knocked out on the floor that we see. It's not when he's cut in the ring, because yeah, that hurts, but it heals up. It's really the trauma, the post trauma
right,
that we end up dealing with later on in life. That's the real danger. Hi, baby
right,
girl. You go away. Thank you.
right. That's so
So,
true.
and I'm a part of this program. It's called the Cleveland Brain Clinic, and it does a big study on hundreds of combat sport athletes, right? And I've been in this for 5 years. And what they do is they take your brain scan, CAT scan, MRI. They take all these things and they compare you to a bunch of other people that fight, to people that don't fight, and to yourself.
Mm,
So you see
mm,
kind of where because again, I'm fine. I could tell you my name, I could tell you all that, but the
right,
CAT scan says that there's some damage here, or the CAT scan says there is no damage, but you're slurring more. Your speech isn't as clear as it was.
right.
These are all signs that you can look out for. So hopefully, with all this information that we're going through with this program, that we can have we can see the signs of I want to say CTE, which has been a big thing since the football players, right? Uh,
Okay.
Damage like that, where it comes back and you're not the same person. It messed with your behavior, messed with your personality.
That's an excellent explanation. So that leads me to ask you this question: what's the criteria for becoming a pro fighter in the boxing world? Most of us, again, we're novices. We pay for a fight and we watch it, or luckily we turn on local channels and we can watch it for free. But for the most part, we don't understand the process of what it takes to become a pro fighter. So, is there a certain amount of fights a fighter has to have before they turn pro, or is it the type of fights that you have that determines whether you turn pro?
So this is the kind of analogy I like to put it. To make it to the NBA, it's extremely hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through a vetting process, whether it's through overseas, college. It's very hard. The numbers don't make it. But once you're in the NBA, you're gonna make money. It's
That's
almost
correct.
guaranteed, right? And I'm not saying you're an automatic millionaire, because I'm sure there's some guys that are, but you're guaranteed to make money once you make it to the NBA. Boxing is different. It's not hard to turn pro. In fact, if a commissioner will approve you, you could turn pro tomorrow if
Mm,
you wanted to. If someone's
mm,
like, "Hey, we need to fight You're like, I'll do it. And you sign up, and they say, all right, you can. If the commission approves, you're pro. You don't even have to get paid, to be honest. You still could be pro. You fight on a pro card. As a professional fighter, you're pro. But it's extremely hard to make money as a professional boxer. You know, I've only started making money where I could live off of for, you know, let's say the last since 2012. That's 7, 8 years. Whereas I've been pro for 15. So there was a
That's a lot.
10-year amateur period that you definitely didn't get no money for. And then I had another 8-year internship, so to speak, you know, that I was hustling, trying to get some money. And it took a lot of going to people's backyards, a lot of having your checks bounce. I don't know how many pros had their check bounce after you had a hard fight. But that's happened to me a couple of times. A lot of driving up to get a fight. And then, you know, finding out that, oh, sorry, we can't pay you for this, but we can make this count on your record. And you're like, all right, fine, I already drove all this way, you know. So it was a lot of that before we even got a decent check. And when I say decent, you know, I mean like $10,000.
Right, right. And that's definitely decent. You know, that's definitely decent. So let me ask you this question. From what you can remember, what is that first pro fight that defines the career of Austin Trout?
So, and it wasn't really my debut. I fought a dude. I still remember his name, Nelson Estupiñán. He was 14 and 66. That's who I fought in my pro debut. But, you know, the fight for me, and it's crazy because nobody saw it. You know, it's one of those fights that it was such a good fight. And I wish the world was able to see. It was on a Golden Boy card in Panama. I fought. It was to get ranked in the top 5, right? I think I was ranked 10th, or no, I was ranked 12th at the time, and they had me going against the guy that was ranked number 10, and the winner of that was going to get jumped up to the top 5. His name was Nelson Tapia, and I mean, he was a big dude. I wasn't ready for that. As soon as I seen it, I was like, how the heck did he make 154? But it was such a good fight. And I remember De La Hoya threw the card, and that's why he didn't want me to fight Canelo for so long, because he saw that fight. That was when I had to dig deep. And, you know, I had to really, you know, that was one of the first times I got rocked and, you know, came back and hit him even harder. I knew I had a chin then. You know, everything about being pro happened that fight. And in fact, after that tough fight, my check bounced. So I really got welcome into the professional life.
Nice.
So I fought that for nothing. But I did get ranked in top 5, and, you know, later on I was able to fight for a belt because of that fight.
Now you mentioned Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo is certainly one of the people that you have history with. There are people in the community, and I'll say community, I'm talking about the boxing fans in general, that regard Canelo as an amazing fighter, but due to some of the recent controversies, people are now wondering, does the impact of, you know, drugs or performance enhancers, you know, is that really a major staple in the performance of a person like Canelo? Now, I'm not sure if you're a personal friend of his. The question is not intended to throw any shots, but these are just real questions that people are going to ask because of what we read and see in the newspapers or in the media. So how much does performance enhancers play a role in the politics or the problems with boxing? And to your knowledge, what are some of the controversies with some of the fighters you fought that are associated with that kind of a drama?
Well, I mean, I don't have any proof. I just have suspicions that, you know, some people that I fought, maybe, actually not just people that I fought. I feel like there's a lot of performance enhancing drugs that's going on in boxing. And, you know, the thing about that is that it's nothing new. There's always been a whole bunch of heads going on in boxing. You know, I think before even baseball found out about it, boxers were using it. You know, I think, you know, back from the 20s to 30s, that they probably been, because they've always treated us like horses. So as long as you know about horse racing, you know that they've been shooting up them horses with steroids. And fighters were no different than horses, especially in the beginning of, the 19th century, or I'm saying the 20th century.
Right.
So I don't think it's nothing new. I think it's been a part of the game for a long time. It's just the awareness now has been out, so it's like, oh, I can't believe he took it. But as you can see, people already forgot about Canelo getting busted with the clenbuterol. I don't think it's going to affect
That's
his
right.
legacy
That's
in a
right.
sense at all. I think what would have affected his legacy more was if he was caught cheating like Margarito did, where he was, lacing his gloves with concrete or something like that. I think they kind of just was like, well, he's still Canelo. I think he's been on
Right.
the drug for a while. I don't think he's on it now, but you never know. I think you got away with it once. Why change anything up? So I don't think it's gonna affect his legacy unless the boxing world decided that we're gonna shame him and ban him for life for this, and that was the last thing on his record. Then yeah, but like I said, he got 6 months in a fine, and now he's back as the
Right.
pound for pound king.
Right. And one thing I know about any profession, fines can definitely hamper, the career of a fighter. And I'm sure all fighters want to stay clear of the fine zone, of doing anything to get a fine. So, if you can enlighten the audience, are there things that you can do outside of the ring, aside from performance enhancers, that you could be fined for by the boxing commission?
Um, yeah. Aside from performance enhancers, narcotics, you can get fined for dirty narcotics drug test, not just performance enhancers, but the opiates, things like cocaine, methamphetamines, those things,
Mm,
which in a sense could be performance enhancing. Those things are forbidden that you
yes.
can't get and for a while they wouldn't even let you have ibuprofen. That was on the list
Wow.
of things not to take. And I was like,
Wow.
man, during camp sometimes I live off ibuprofen. Not so much anymore. I've gone more holistic, but back then ibuprofen was how I was able to get through sparring because everything hurt. So I'm glad they lifted that, and then now they're lifting CBDs off of that list now too. So we're now able to take CBDs for pain.
Okay. As fans of the sport of boxing, uh, opinions are going to vary based on what fighters you like, what fighting style you like,
Right.
and why you like a particular fighter. Let me ask you this question. When most people are asked the question, who's your favorite fighter? Everyone, you can expect to hear an Ali, you can expect to hear a Tyson. In other communities, you might expect to hear a Rocky Marciano. But when you ask the actual fighter, they don't give answers that everyone gives. The fighter actually shocks you a lot of times and typically names people that you either never heard or someone you wouldn't think that they put respect on. So I want to ask you, what are some of the fighters that inspire you as a child and may even continue to inspire you now as an adult?
Well, again, like everybody says, Ali, Leonard, Floyd, Roy Jones, um, definitely them. But like my all-time favorite is probably Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. The things
Mm,
that man did, and I don't think he lost to Chavez. I don't think he lost to De La Hoya. I think his only true loss was to Trinidad, but that was at the end, and he was just too small. But I don't think he gets enough respect. Like they should be set. They should be putting Sweet Pea's highlights out there like they do Lomachenko. You know what I mean?
yes,
Uh,
yes.
Lomachenko. I mean, Sweet Pea walks, so Lomachenko can run type deal. So that's one of my favorite fighters. And through the old school, I love watching Sugar Ray Leonard. Marvin Hagler. I love Marvin Hagler because of how he did it. I feel like
Yeah,
I kind of took a Marvin Hagler kind of road. I mean, he was the working man. He was never the golden boy. He never had the machine behind him, but they couldn't get rid of him because he was just good and he was gritty.
that's right.
And
That's right.
so I kind of pride myself of being kind of Marvin Hagler this day. I'll go to your backyard and I'll beat you up.
I like that. Number one, the fighters you talking about are fighters that I can remember in the 80s. sitting down literally with popcorn in my hand with my dad and watching these fighters. One of the fights that gets the most views to this day online is the Hagler Hearns fight. That was an
It's
amazing
eight
fight.
minutes of boxing. My mother bought that
Yeah.
DVD for me, and she made me watch it. She's like, "If you think you're gonna be a I mean, I was like in seventh grade. You know, I've been boxing for like maybe 2 years. And she's like, if you think
Mhm.
you're gonna be a boxer and like boxing, you need to watch this. If you ain't never seen this, don't talk to me about boxing. So she showed me the best
Wow.
8 minutes of boxing, and in facts, I couldn't.
Yes.
They was throwing them things, man.
Yes.
They don't make them like that no more.
Yes, they was. And I think the beautiful thing about that exchange in the ring is that it was so equal. You know, you have
Yeah, yeah,
it, it's rare in a lot of sports that you have moments like that where you have fighters who at the top of their game, and you know they're competing and opposing one another, and you know one is getting the other one's getting the other one, and to the point where you're watching excellence at its greatest, at its best, where
yeah.
everyone not only feels like they're getting their money's worth, but you feel like you got to visit the ticket booth again and pay some more money.
Yeah, like I
You know
need
what
to
I
give
mean?
you another dub. That was
Right.
amazing. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
In your opinion, um, and because we're speaking now of closer to the contemporary area of boxing, I'm going to fast forward to something really recent. Then I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So I want to ask you now, what are your thoughts on fighters that are fighting now? You know, like a Mayweather, like a Mike Tyson, like a Roy Jones, fighters who have retired already but are coming out of retirement and are fighting exhibition. What are your thoughts on exhibition fights? Allow us for the general public to understand what that entails, because a lot of people think that those fights are staged and it's not really a fight. Could you educate the general public on exhibition fights on a whole?
Well, speaking specifically on the Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight, um, Tyson, he was really in it to win it. He wanted to knock Roy out. Roy, I believe, suffered from damaged ribs, either bruised or fractured. I'm not sure, one of the two. So I mean, that's as real as it
Mm,
gets. I don't know how staged you want to be. Now, the fact that they called it a draw is because there was no winner. They told y'all from the
right.
beginning, we're not gonna announce a winner, so they just called it a draw. Which I thought Mike won, but whatever. It was a good night of boxing. I believe things like that are good for boxing. Everybody knows who
Yes.
Mike Tyson is, and everybody else knows who Roy Jones Jr. is. And then they
Yes.
coupled it with the YouTuber and some other things. But Snoop Dogg was there on the main stage. They had
That's
some
right.
performances. It was a good night of entertainment. Everybody was talking about it. People that never watched boxing, they're like, I'm watching. My mother, who is a boxing head, but I always slip in the links. She's like, no, I'm gonna pay money for this fight because I want this fight. I don't want no shabby link. I'm excited about it. And right now in 2020, when there's not much to be excited for, it's good to get the world excited about something. And it's even better to get the world excited about boxing. Um, Going
Absolutely.
to now speak specifically about this Floyd Mayweather Jake Paul fight, or whatever his name is, Jake Logan Paul, or whatever the name is.
Paul Logan. Paul Logan.
Again, it's gonna give people that don't mess with boxing to start messing with boxing. I just feel like if the game gets too gimmicky, you know what I mean? Good fighters like myself gonna die out unless we sell out in a sense, or unless we find a gimmick. So that's gonna be on me or us to figure out how to evolve, really, because the game is evolving. I don't like it, but I can't hate on it. I just got to figure out how to maneuver around it or through it.
Okay. Okay, explain to us some of the politics of boxing. As far as a lot of people don't realize that if you're not under various promoters, you might not see some of the greater fights. So, to
Yeah.
an extent, we can then say that boxing certainly has its own politics. Have you
Oh,
experienced in your
absolutely.
career some of the politics of boxing?
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, let me get my charger because I got a lot to say on this.
All right, brother. Family, thumb up the video, share the video, like the video. We are about to all the way go in, family. Share the video, thumb up the video, make sure it's on all of your social media platforms, family. We are definitely getting a treat this evening with our brother Austin Trout.
So to go in about the politics. The politics of boxing is one of the things that, you know, I've always historically is in a sense killed boxing, is why the best fights never happen.
Mm.
Even taking it back to Sonny Liston, you know, Floyd Patterson ran from Sonny Liston for about 2 years. You know, and Liston was the guy who was going to beat him. Then, you know, they would say things like, "Oh, he's an angry Negro, and we don't want Floyd to be associated and bring that together. It'd be bad for the country." I think that's what Customato said. But that's just the politics. The mob wouldn't put enough money to make that fight happen. And it was like, you know, who golden rule. He who makes the goal makes the rules. And with the boxing's landscape, so, you know, let's look at it as like gang territory. So you have all these different gangs. You got the PBC gang, you got Top Rank gang, and you have this little gangs dying out, the Golden Boy gang. But then you also got the WBO gang, the BC gang, the IBF gang, and the WBA gang. So you have all these gangs that, you know, have alliances with some people, but are at war with other people, and in a sense will make an alliance with enemies just to screw over a mutual enemy. And that's what they're doing. And using the fighters are like the, you know, the street men that go out and do the killing, so to speak, right? We're the ones that are sacrificed. We're the pawns. We go out, we put in the work, and, you know, we're the last to get any of that trinkle money that's going on. The big money is being shared by the big guys, and I think it wasn't up until Al Heyman came into the game and really started giving the fighters a bigger piece of the pie that we was just getting thrown at us. You know what I mean? But if it wasn't for Al Heyman to start, you're really looking out for the fighters. None of the other guys would have. So shout out to Al Heyman for doing that for us, because, you know, he gave some power back to the fighters.
I throw this one at you. So when we talk about various promoters who are notable for doing more for fighters, you would expect that for us as black men in the entertainment or in the sports industry, you would probably reason that black promoters would probably, you know, have some compassion for black fighters. And I'm sure you see where I'm about to go with this. So most people speak about their experiences with a Don King as being very, very bad. And from your experience, I know you wasn't signed to Don King, but just from your experience, is it fair to say that many people shouldn't buy into the hype that automatically because you have a black promoter means that you're going to have a great career?
Absolutely not. You know, I was blessed to have been under Al Heyman, who does look out for his fellow black fighters. Anybody he has. But Don King, I know people that were signed with him, and it really didn't matter what race you were. He was going to shelve you till he was able to make money off. At one point in time when he was the man, he would make you a lot of money, but he's going to make himself more. You know, and one line he would always like to tell people is like, "Look, do you want 50% of 100 million or 100% of nothing? Which one you want? Okay, give me that money." So, but he ain't making it like that. You cannot look in boxing, especially in boxing. I have yet, again, aside from Al Heyman, and then even doing that, it's still just boxing. So, you know, he's got to move a certain way because it's boxing. Good business almost doesn't exist. I was waiting to get contracts early, you know, because, you know, we're at the top, waiting for people to do what they say and say what they do and things like that. And really, I've learned that contracts are only as strong as the people that are signing it. Like, that paper could say, they can just be like, "Nah, I ain't doing that." And then it's up to you to take the court. lawyers, and then they just drag it out, and it's crazy. You know what I mean? I'm in a lawsuit that's been going 5 years now. So unless you
And
really
I want
trying
to
to
talk
fight
to
it
you.
forever, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. You gotta get everything up front. You know what I mean? You can't go off of a promise. It's hard to trust anybody. I was blessed with the best manager in the game, Bob Spagnola, and Al Heyman. But everybody
Nice,
isn't
nice.
just like me. I'm favored.
Okay. So now, speaking towards your lawsuit, give us some understanding of what led up to you actually filing a lawsuit against the WBO. What happened in that situation?
So back in 2015, I'm about a year and a half off the loss with Canelo, working my way back up the ranks. I'm on a 3-fight winning streak. I was ranked, I want to say third in the WBO. Demetrius Andrade
Mm.
was the champion, but due to inactivity, he had to give up the belt.
If
So
I could
when they
stop you for
stripped him,
one moment, if I could stop you for one moment, let me say this. For people who don't understand, I want to interject and say this. When he's beginning to explain to you that at one point he's ranking third, I need people to understand that your ranking is in part also responsible for your purse. Is that not true?
that's true. The higher you rank, the more they need to pay you. You ain't just
That's
nobody.
right.
I'm top 10,
That's right.
baby. Right.
That's right.
So I'm ranked third in the WBO, and Demetrius Andrade is the champion. Then when they stripped him of his belt, that means that the belt goes to the winner of the ranked first and second, right? If you're ranked 1 and 2, then you get to fight for the vacated belt. Well, the number one guy was Canelo Alvarez, and the number two guy, his name was Michael Soro. Michael Soro had promotion issues and was not able to fight for the belt. Canelo Alvarez was fighting Miguel Cotto for the middleweight WBC belt, so he was not available as well.
Mm,
Meaning that the belt should have went down to the 3 and 4 guy, which was me and Liam Smith. Okay, so
mm.
all this happened. We watch it. We were sitting there like, oh, you're gonna strip them? Cool. Guess what? They're busy. It's gonna go to me and Liam Smith, waiting for them to make the call. So basically, as you can imagine, we as we're waiting for the call, we look at the rankings one morning. I'm gone. I'm taken all the way out the rankings for no reason, right? And then out of nowhere, this John Thompson, I can't remember his name. Somebody jumps up in my place. They order the fight between Liam Smith and this new guy. Where the whole time we were my manager sending emails like, hey, why are we taking out? What's going on? They said, it's a mistake. We're like, well, fix the mistake, put us in for the belt, let us fight. They don't respond or they, give us a runaround. That fight happens. Liam Smith's the new champion. So
Mm.
we tell them, all right, make it right. You skipped us over that fight. Make it right. Order us to fight Liam Smith for the belt under the same terms we would have for the vacated belt. Don't give me no champion challenger cut, you know what I mean, which is like an
Right.
85, 50, 20, 15, whatever. So they refused, said no. In fact, when they put me back in, they put me back ranked at like 7th or 8th. You know what I mean? They didn't make it right. So we said, listen, you guys don't make it right. We have to file under the Muhammad Ali Act. And according to the WBO rules, you cannot take somebody out of the rankings without notifying them on why. Whether it's inactivity,
Mm.
it's loss, whatever it is, you have to notify them. So they never notified me. We have in an email that they say, oh, it was a mistake. Once the mistake, which is negligence, they made it happen and they didn't fix it. So that's why
Right.
we sued. Not only did that Liam Smith go on to fight Canelo Alvarez, which could have been me. I think he had maybe 2 defenses. Then he got a fight with Canelo. So we're suing him on basically what we could have made. A rematch with Canelo and being a 2-time world champion would have been huge for my
Of
career.
course. Of course. Of
You know,
course. especially seeing where his career is now, would have been huge for your career. So I want to cause the people to understand what we're looking at here. So when you go to sue such a powerhouse like a WBO, you're suing them based on what you could have made had you kept your ranking and all the fights you possibly missed out in the midst of having this war with the
Because of
WBO
because of their negligence,
because of
or
their
because they did it on purpose, which I believe. You know, Frank
right,
Warren. I think he paid some money to get that done,
right.
and I've already made those claims. Uh, it's real fishy that the WBO, when Liam Smith fought for the belt, they had 9 title fights on a Frank Warren promoted card. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean that's a lot. It's ridiculously a lot for one
That is,
card.
that is a lot. That is a lot. So the newspaper, the media outlets are reporting that the amount that you sued the WBO is 40 million. Um, not to sound facetious, how is that amount justified legally? When you sue for 40 million, how does that equate? What are we looking at?
We're looking at again being a 2-time world champion
Hmm.
and getting another Canelo fight. So being a
Okay,
2-time world champion, the sponsorships outside the ring, the
that's right.
appearance fees, the meet and greets, all the money that I could have gotten by being that 2-time world champion. Not to
Mhm.
mention we would have probably fought in England. That's the international money that they stopped me from getting. And then the rematch with Canelo in itself would have been 10-15 million dollar fight
Easy, easy.
easily. So that alone is is a quarter of the money that they had me miss out on.
It,
And I would have whooped Canelo the second time for sure. You know what I'm saying? Meaning my next fight would have been another 20 mil or
mm,
probably rematch, probably the rubber match with Canelo, which would
that's
have been
right.
20-30 million dollars. You know what I mean? Which I would have whooped them in again too.
Talk that, talk that, talk that. Let them know, let them know. You know,
So they messed up a lot of things, and not to mention having another round at being a world champion, I would have done it differently.
nice, nice. So what people don't realize, because this is some of the backdrop of the boxing world, is that when you win a fight, especially if the fight is big enough, you have a whole slew of sponsors now that want you in a commercial endorsing something of
Yeah,
value
everybody loves
because
a
of your
winner.
success. Everybody loves a winner.
Everybody wants to sit next to the winner, and
Right,
I would have been like, "You got to pay to sit next to me. You want me
right.
to
So
smile? You got to pay for that."
I'm going to agree. So I definitely agree that the amount that you're going for makes sense. And it's quite possible that you could have even sued for more, especially when we talk
Right,
about the
but I ain't
duration.
greedy. But I
Right.
ain't greedy. You know what I'm saying? This is honestly the things that have happened in this case have been not necessarily a blessing for me, but it's going to be a blessing for future fighters that ever have to go through this. Um, if and they do this a lot, so
Mm,
that's changed the game for basically the future fighters that got done wrong when they go to sue them.
yes.
In their rules, they say you have to go through this arbitration clause, and that arbitration basically states that the WBO or the BC or the BA they could pick whatever arbitrator they want. It could be their grandma, it could be their
Oh,
nephew,
that's
it could be
messed
whoever
up.
they want.
Right.
So what we did was once we've been going through all kinds of nonsense. Um, in fact, we went through a deposition. Now we're in the arbitration. We're like, wait, why are we doing arbitration? We already did a deposition.
Right.
But I digress. So we said no, that is not fair. We'll take this to the Supreme Court. And we said because of this, and this isn't fair. The whole arbitration clause, it violates the FAA, which is the Federal Arbitration Act, and the Muhammad Ali Act. And so we took
Mm,
the Supreme Court, not federal, but the Supreme Court in Boston. Boston ruled in our favor. Fighters don't have to do this no more. If they try to take to arbitration, just quote Trout versus the WBO 2015, where the Supreme Court already said that that's not fair and kicked it back. So at least that's a win for future fighters going through this. And now, I mean, these organizing bodies are gonna have to move differently. Um, because they're not going to win that one. It's going to go to trial. And when it becomes a battle of merit, and you weren't doing right, you know what I'm saying, we win. Fighter wins. So if nothing else, that's a blessing in itself for the future fighters dealing with these organizations.
Okay. Now, in some of your more recent fights, you fought some pretty tough opponents. You even fought both of the Charlo twins.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that comes up often in your interviews. People ask you what your thoughts on them are. For the sake of this being a newer platform, I want to ask you here. What do you think about the career of the Charlo brothers from where it started to where it is now? Do you think that their career it began strong, or where they're at now is a testimony of the hard work that they put in?
Oh, yeah, where they're at now is definitely a testimony of the work they put in. I've never heard of either Charlo brother being lazy. They always put in work. I it's like I know him, but I don't know him like that. So I couldn't even tell you that they don't deserve it. From what I know that they put in the work. They fought everybody they put in front of them. I feel like I definitely beat one of them, and if it wasn't for a couple knockdowns, I could have won that second one. But I feel like the victories that they had and the fashion that they've had it's done nothing but risen my level of respect in the game. Because I took both of them the distance into the deep waters, and they've been dispatching everybody. They was knocking everybody out.
Right. Okay. And this is gonna be a tough question, but I feel like if I got you here, I gotta ask you a tough question. Who do you think are among the top 5 of your division?
Well, Jamel Charlo is the king right now. He got the belt. He got all the belts, I think. Like who? Oh, that Patrick Texera, he has a belt, but Jamel Charles the king right now.
Okay, we definitely agree on that.
Jared Hurd, he had a good little comeback after his last loss, but he's still up there. He's still in there. We still want to see a Charlo Hurd fight. So we have to mention Hurd, and I don't really. No one's touching Charlo. Let me get that rematch done.
Yes,
I could be the king.
That's right. When I look at your career, and I duly note that fighters can step up in weight or come down in weight. Let me ask you a question. In revisiting the fight of Maidana, Maidana gets in the ring and he fights Adrian Broner. That was a pretty aggressive fight for Adrian.
Yeah.
And Adrian is used to fighters that I want to say with what the most respect as possible, that probably show respect for his hands, right? Whereas Maidana came in there and he showed no respect. How does a fighter, of great rank, how do you fight somebody like a Maidana who does not respect, so to speak, the art of boxing per se, because he's more of a brawler?
Right. I honestly think you got to take the fight to Maidana. A lot of people forget that Devin Alexander beat the hell out of Maidana.
That's a fact. I watched it.
He stopped him. People forget about that fight with Victor Ortiz and Maidana. When Ortiz was taking it to Maidana he doesn't go back very well. He's only a come forward guy.
That's
so
right.
When you bring it to him, he's like, oh, holy smack. If you get him standing up, it's a wrap. Victor quit, but he had Maidana done. He just, Victor's heart was in question then. So for someone that doesn't give no respect, you got to take that respect. You know what I mean? You got to put that foot in his ass and take your respect.
That's a fact. I think one of the fights that I enjoy, I enjoy many of your fights, but one of the fights I particularly enjoy are obviously your Canelo fight. I definitely enjoyed watching that fight. A lot of people have opinions on either side, but I enjoy the sport of boxing. I really enjoyed that fight. What I want to say to you is And I know this might be tough to say because, for obvious reasons, the politics of boxing, but who were some of your hardest fights in the boxing world?
Man, the hardest fight I ever had was probably against Erislandy Lara. Um, I never wanted the fight to be over so bad. I was just like, damn, what round is it? 8? Let's try to do something now, And it wasn't like, for instance, physically, the Jarrett Hurd loss physically took more out of me than the Lara loss, and I'm okay with that. The reason why the Lara loss hurt more is because mentally, emotionally, I was beat. I couldn't figure out what to do, and there was nothing I can do. And what's in my mind was like, I ain't got nothing for you, bro. Like, when your mind's in the telling your body,
That's
like,
right.
figure something out. I don't know. I was just that's how I felt, and I was defeated mentally, and that really took a lot out of me emotionally and spiritually. I was debating whether I ever fight again. I was like, I don't want to do this. So, like with the Hurd fight, physically I was beaten, but it was like my body gave up on me. I don't feel like, yeah, it was Hurd that did it and made me out, overly exert myself trying to beat him up. But again, my body failed me, so that's kind of where I was like, man, hey, I gave everything I could. You know what I mean? I couldn't physically give no more, and I got to keep my head up on that. Just got to put my body through more rigorous type of training, so that way it don't ever quit on me again.
Now,
and then I love to rematch her too. See him again.
okay, now you're certainly not a person that has hung up his gloves, so you're definitely planning to fight again. What does it take, conditioning wise, to get in the ring initially, and then for a fighter that's in his 30s, what does it take to get back in that ring in your 30s in terms of strength and conditioning?
Well, I've always worked hard. I've never been tired or out of shape for any fight. Um, and one thing I like to credit to keeping in shape is I try not to get too far out of shape in between fights.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do what I should do in between fights. Right, I'm not super disciplined yet. I'm working on it. I'm getting better, but I'm definitely staying in much better shape and keeping my weight down a lot better than I used to. Which is why I'm able to make weight better now in my 30s than I was in my mid to late 20s.
Right.
I was living all kinds of wild in between fights in my 20s, and the discipline is what I feel has made it easier for as far as weight goes.
What are some of the dangers in stepping up in weight or coming down in weight, and which one, in your opinion, is at all?
Well, one of the dangers with stepping up in weight is that you're going to be against bigger bodies. Um, for instance, at 154, I used to come down from like 185 to get to 154. Now, and I used to be a big guy at 154. Now you got these guys coming down from 200, 210, 215, and making 54. So they have this, 210-pound frame, the shoulders, the height, all that, and they squeeze 154 pounds. But then, when it's time to fight again, they back up to 190, 185.
Damn.
So, and looking at, if I was imagine going up to 160. These dudes coming down from 225, 230. You know what I mean? So that's one of the dangers with that. Now, if you yourself, you're coming down from high up, you can't make that no more. You might have more success at a higher weight class. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
Now, some of the dangers going out to lower weight classes that you don't know how your body's going to respond to the weight loss. And your potassium levels might be at zero. Your water levels might be at zero. You might not have enough fluid around the brain, which could cause brain damage. There's a lot of things. If you don't do it right, you could risk of severely harming yourself.
Okay, that's very good to know. Um, a lot of people world over regard this particular fight as one of the fights that certainly you both will be remembered for and will always be revisited. This is your Miguel Cotto fight. How do you feel about that fight overall? His performance, your performance. How do you rate that fight?
Well, that's the greatest win I have to date. And honestly, that was the fight that introduced myself to the world. Now, mind you, I was the world champion when I fought Miguel Cotto, and I defended my belt. I believe he was the third time,
Mm,
but nobody knew who I was. In fact, after I beat Miguel Cotto, my city, Las Cruces, thought they're like, "Oh snap, we got a world champion," and I was like, "I was world champion for like almost 2 years now."
already,
It took Miguel Cotto to get my own town excited about what
nice,
I can do. But
nice,
what it did was it confirmed that all that quiet work we were doing, all that backyard work we was doing, all that traveling under the radar, it paid off, and the people, like the fans, the hardcore fans, they respect it and they love it, just like they do the marvelous Marvin Hagler.
right.
He did it his way, and he did it without help. And I'm not saying I had no help. Me and my manager, Boss Strang, know that I wouldn't be here without him. And the Most High like I said, he put aiming into my path to give me those big fights, to give me that name. So, but I was 25-0 before I got put
Damn.
on Showtime.
Make us understand what are some of the psychological details about preparing yourself to get into a fight. And what I mean by that is, for most people in the street, we get in a fight because we angry. But for a fighter, if you get in that ring angry, you're in trouble. So, the build up towards the fight, a lot of it is media hype to promote the fight, right? But then sometimes you have fighters who really do hate each other, right? And sometimes you get hit a certain way in the ring, and everything you learn in the gym goes out the window, and it turns into a brawl. How do you maintain that balance of being a professional fighter, fighting at your best, and trying to fight against giving into anger?
To talk about the training, you train in controlled situations, and then you train in uncontrolled situations to gain control. And in any martial art, they'll tell you the first person that loses their head loses the fight. In
Mhm.
any art.
My father would
And
always tell me that. My father always told me that.
so it means if you take that shot, you can't think about it too much. Don't dwell on it. Don't get mad about it. Just do something about it. And
Mm.
it's hard to really to have to do all that without thinking. You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, well, that's a left hand, so let me make sure that I stay to his right. Make sure I don't, duck this way. Stay on top of my feet. You have to do that in a second. Because if you sat
Right.
there and talk to yourself like I just said that and read it out loud, it's too
Yeah,
much time, it's too much thought. This dude just hit you with three more other things you weren't ready for.
that's right.
You know what I mean? It's like, forget about that shot. Just don't get hit again. Do something about it. Okay? Bet. Counter. Pop, 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 pop. There it is. Jab, jab, jab. Get out the way. Move, move. It's all got to be instant. So we train these things over and over and over and over and over again. So it's a reaction. It's not a thought.
What advice would you give to younger fighters who come into the sport of boxing thinking that they're going to be a millionaire a couple fights in, and they're spending money like how we see it, let's say in Adrian Broner, blowing through Crash, going through the strip club, or passing through whatever venue or city, Miami, turned up. You know, a lot of people don't understand that the way you lose money is as fast as you earn the money. What
Or
advice
fast.
would you give to fighters in terms of trying to build something substantial outside the ring to protect them from that eventual time where they're no longer able to fight?
So first, you need to figure out what are true assets and what are liabilities. You know what I mean? Once you figure that out, use that fight money to buy you true assets, meaning money that's going to make you money. And then the money that those assets make, buy the liabilities from.
Mm.
So don't ever buy a liability with your fight money. That's your blood money. That blood money, as you know, runs out. You only got like so many courts.
That's a
So
fact.
use that blood money to buy another heart, right? So that it can pump more blood. And then whatever that extra blood is pumped out, use that to go trick off in Miami and whatever. That's the money you spend the liabilities on, the cars and blah blah blah. But don't also use the asset money to get more assets. If you really want to be smart about it, you want that money to turn for you. And it took blowing $1 million for myself to figure that out.
Now, you mentioned the Most High earlier, which is a good segue, because I wanted to ask you, as a spiritual man, what is it like to pray before a fight? That you find victory and then you lose the fight. Do you ever question God? Do you ever question your spirituality? Or do you see it as an opportunity that your God is showing you, or your spiritual system is showing you, that you just got to try harder and come back? Because sometimes a loss is a win, as you know, and sometimes people don't see it as that. So what role does your spirituality play in your fighting?
I think it's a huge role, and it always has been, even before I came into the truth. I was in the Christian mindset in the church, but I always felt like I had to give glory to the Most High God, and I always knew that I'm not gonna have success if I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? Why would God give me any success if I'm just gonna give myself the glory?
That's
And I've
right.
always had that sense. Then when I got more into the truth, um, and as far as the Torah, I felt like my stage, that was what the Most High built my stage for,
Right.
to bring that Hebrew Israelite, uh, even if it's just having his name on my shorts, or the tzitzits, or the fringes, um, whatever it is, I need to bring that to the mainstream. And I think the media has given Hebrew Israelites a bad name. I think I want to say they called them a terrorist group or something, a hate group
Right. Right.
or something like that. And that's not what we are at all. It's not what we are at all.
Not at
Some
all.
are, some may be speaking that, but I want to show them what it is. Yeah, if you're Christian, then you should be, in a sense, Hebrew Israelite. You should be
That's right.
believing in the Torah. You should be believing in the stories of the prophets, and you should be following the examples that the Most High set us in His Bible, right? The moral compass. Um, and so that's kind of what I want to show. Like a lot of my friends that are Christians, they're like, "Yeah, well, you do that." So yeah, I follow the God that you claim you believe in. You claim
Right.
you believe in that God,
Right.
but yet you do things to serve other gods. I'm just trying to point it out that that book that you don't read but you like to quote, um, tells you don't do it.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Now, we've watched certain celebrities come out and talk about the truth per se. The hidden truth, the greatest hidden truth, which is that many of the blacks in America, the Caribbean, or throughout the African slave trade diaspora, many of us may in fact be the living descendants of the ancient biblical Israelites. Um, this claim has been attacked by the media for some time now, to the extent that we have another major celebrity, such as our brother Nick Cannon, who recently spoke about, his belief of the original Hebrews of the Bible to be a people of color. And, even from my experience of having 27 years in the Hebrew community and being around European Jews a lot and working among them, one thing I know is that many European Jews teach that the original color and hue of the Hebrews are black. So let me ask you this question. Um, how do you think the media treated our brother Nick Cannon in light of his claim? I don't think that Nick Cannon treated his claim in a way that was condescending to anyone's religion or anyone's faith. I think he spoke his bold truth, which was the fact that he believes the original color and who of the biblical Israelites are black. Was that such an offense? Why was Nick Cannon attacked? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is the media treated Nick Cannon as if he told a secret that they didn't want him to tell. Um, it's not that
Mm,
it's not that Nick Cannon said anything that was okay. He may have said like I think white people are savages or something, but he didn't say anything that should have got him canceled in a sense,
right.
right? He didn't say nothing that warranted a cancel, except he said something that they didn't want to get out, you know? And they made an example of him
Right.
so that don't nobody start talking that nonsense that,
Mm,
people that run the media and the people that kind of run the banks, that they're not who they say they are. And I'm not saying that you have to be black to be Israelite. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying those that claim
hmm.
that they are, maybe not.
That's right. Well, people are free to call themselves what they want. We know that. But the
Mm-hmm.
historical record certainly reveals that the biblical children of Israel look like the adjacent surrounding lands that Israel is attached to. So the biblical
Mm-hmm.
Israelites look like the ancient Egyptians. The Bible
Mm-hmm.
talks about Moses being mistaken as an Egyptian. The Bible talks about Joseph's brothers coming into Egypt and not being able to differentiate him from Egyptians. So
Yeah,
there's enough evidence in the Bible to make a claim that Nick Cannon made substantial. And again, Nick Cannon doesn't make the claim with a spirit of arrogance nor a spirit of hate, but just simply a spirit of truth. So what I want to say to
true.
you, brother, is I applaud you in this moment for even being able to have the courage to speak about your faith openly, because you and I know behind the scenes, there are a lot of entertainers, a lot of people in the sports world that are Israelites and that are aware of these truths. But some of these people do not want to be as open with these truths because of the fear of the backlash as well. And for some of them, we can't blame them at all because we know what the agenda is of certain segments of this nation, America, and how they want to demonize or even criminalize black people in America for thinking that they could be a part of the biblical legacy. Imagine that we're criminalized for thinking that we could possibly be attached to the narrative of the Bible. Ain't that something?
That's crazy. That Christianity was sold to us with the chains and a whip. And they used the scriptures out of context to keep us, enslaved. But had we had the full context of what they was talking about, we would have been known. And I mean, think about it. Why else would they take your language, your name, your history, your culture, if they just didn't want you to know who you were? You know, like they went through great lengths to erase our history. That must prove to you that whoever you are inside, they don't want you to find out.
That's a fact. That's a
The
fact. And I think
greater is
that,
he within me than there is within the world, right?
right, right, absolutely right, brother. Listen, man, whenever I speak to you, I'm always thoroughly impressed, not just as a fan and looking at your career, but I impressed by the man. You've been in my corner as a brother, in more ways than one. And any chance I have the opportunity to brag about how much of a brother you are, I will and I do. You are an honorable man. From the moment that I've met you, you've always been stand up. You've actually been there for me when I needed you, and that says a lot in today's world. How many people can we count on when we need them? So what I want to say from personal experience is a lot of people think that celebrities are aloof from everyday life and distant from the struggle, so that people think that if they reach out to a celebrity for some kind of help, be it a word of confidence or be it, physical help, sustenance, resources, people almost think that, celebrities are far removed from even having that conversation. And what I want to say with great surety is that this is not one of those brothers, because, brother, you have been there for me. It means a lot to me. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people connected to you that can say that as well.
More, I just had to say that honestly. Like, I sign up for Brother Zion Lex's classes, his Hebrew classes, Torah classes, even some of his Kabbalah classes. And every time this brother starts teaching, he just unlocks a level of wisdom within me that I could take and just like connect more pieces of the puzzle together. And it just opens up so many doors wisdom wise. And that's every time, every lecture I get to go in. So like anything that I can do, because the goal that you're giving out, the knowledge you're giving out, I promise you, they probably got these things locked under the Vatican.
Yes.
Like you ain't gonna. I can almost guarantee that some of this knowledge that you've been putting us on, that they have it locked up tight in the Vatican. You will never get to see or hear about this again because it's unlocking some things with the inside me that I feel like I know. I have a deeper understanding, meaning I have a deeper connection to the Most High Elohim. And so because of that, because of you, yeah, my connection to God has been greater. And I can't thank you enough.
That's powerful, brother. That's powerful, man. I mean, you are a huge asset to your family, to your friends, to our community, brother. This is a platform that will always be open to you. I really
Yeah.
did enjoy and do enjoy our conversation. I'm going to ask the moderators if you could post really quick the call-in number in the chat room so that we could take about 3 questions, and then we'll have our brother leave us this evening. So for those of you who'd like to ask our brother any live questions, we're going to drop the number in the chat room, and we'll allow about 3 to 5 questions to swing through. So family, please, if you can, as soon as you can, hit us with that phone call. I'm going to drop the number again, and I'm going to ask the moderators to share the number so that everyone can call as soon as possible so we can have our brother return to his family and enjoy the night.
No problem. Yeah, when that money comes through, y'all keep a lookout for New Jerusalem. That's just a Torah only town. You know what I mean? Torah observant town. That's what that's what I keep dreaming about. Right?
Well, since you brought it up, would you mind touching on it just a little bit in concept, not so much in detail, but in concept?
Yeah, the concept, and I daydream about it. I always wondered why. I mean, like the Mennonites or the Amish, they're able to come together, live next to each other, and have their own rules, their own community, and nobody really messes with them. Nobody says anything. Just let them do what they do. Why haven't the Hebrew Israelites came together and done something like that? And that's what I would love to bring together is a commune where it's basically it's a bunch of land where you could come and choose to live next to other people that do as you do. And we have the town's rules and laws would be the laws of the Most High Elohim. We would work together, live together, pray together. Except unlike the Amish, I would like it to be more open. I like people to come and be able to see how we live, to be the example, to be that light in the world as we're called to be. And so, of course, it's going to take a lot of organizing. There's so many sects and camps that believe this and believe that, and where it may be hard, but if it does come together, that's how the Most High deemed it to be possible. We still got to try. I mean, it wasn't until Moses took that step towards the bush that Most High called him, and we always got to take that first step before Most High does the rest. So
that's a fact. That's
Torah observant town. You could come, you could stay, you gotta work. Unless it's Shabbat.
Great point, brother. Great point. Family, if nobody has any questions, we're gonna bring this interview to a close. So make sure, family, if anybody has any questions, I don't want to leave anybody out. If you have any questions, call the number ASAP. That's 718-709-9859, 718-709-9859. We'll be taking calls for the next couple minutes. With that being said, brother, the way I would like to close out this show is for you to just cause us to understand, what do you think is the future of boxing in light of MMA becoming more famous, more public, and more mainstream? Obviously, MMA right now is growing to become one of the biggest sports competitors next to boxing. What do you think about the future of boxing as a sport in terms of viewership and MMA?
I think boxing is going to be fine, regardless of what MMA does. For a little while, when MMA was getting popular, boxing was dying off. But it survived that. It survived that, and not only came back, proving that boxing numbers cannot be touched by MMA, but also proving that MMA and boxing are two separate sports, and they will be successful in their two separate markets. Um, Again, and now boxing seems to be taking a little bit turn, but that's not because of MMA. That's because of COVID. COVID's made boxing take the turn that it's made, where the YouTubers are fighting and there's exhibitions here and there. But I think COVID did that. I don't think MMA did that. And trust me, if MMA didn't have that fight island, they would be turning tricks too, like boxing is.
That's a fact, man. And let me say this too as a closing thought. People assume that because an MMA fighter like Conor McGregor, let's say, puts in a lot of work in the ring, a lot of people they'll tear up a boxer. Bring us back to reality and force us to understand that there is a difference between the two sports. And just because somebody's great in MMA doesn't mean a boxer doesn't stand a chance against them.
Exactly, but you take a boxer to the octagon, and it's a different story. It's two different sports. In my experience, MMA fighters, they haven't been punched in the face since they were 10 years old. So most of them can take a punch like a fighter can. They can take a punch, but not like a fighter can. The chins are different. Most fighters that I know that are still fighting, we've been boxing since 10, 11 years old. And getting punched in the face, you learn how to take a punch a little bit better. But at the same time, too, I can't sit here and grapple for more than 2 minutes without being dead tired. You know what I mean? I don't care how good shape I am. I can fight 12 rounds. Grappling for 2 to 5 minutes is hard. It's hard. It's just a different win. It's a different sport. I'm probably gonna get tapped out or choked out real quick.
That's a fact, brother.
This is different. And we don't have to compare to each other no more. Conor McGregor made the most that any MMA fighter has ever made, probably combined with one fight in boxing. It's different.
That's a fact, man. That's a fact. Would you ever consider doing movies? Sometimes, people in the sports entertainment industry, they venture out into other industries that are just as notable. Would you ever do movies?
Absolutely. I would love to do a movie. I feel like I'm a character and I could get into character. I'm a Virgo, so, I could be who I need to be at that time anyway.
That's beautiful, brother. That's beautiful. Well, it's been a great interview, brother. I salute you. I thank you very much. And I definitely look forward to, what comes of your proposal going on right now with the WBO, your case. And I definitely want to continue to let the family know to support you. If there's anything that's coming up or anything you want the people to be aware of, you can close the show and give your last final thoughts on those things.
Yeah, no doubt. January 30th, I'm going to make a return to the ring. I'm going to Mexico, going to Chihuahua City. I believe I'm fighting a Juan Ramos, 27-7, about to knock his block off. I need a fight. So it'll be on Fight TV. We're going to get the pay-per-views going. Also get the link going so I get shared to everybody. And thank you all. Shalom. The Most High's kingdom is at hand. I feel it. That's one of the reasons why I can't be quiet about it. I feel like Daniel in exile. Like, he knew it was coming. He read Jeremiah. So the time is at hand. It's time for those dry bones to get up and start growing that flesh.
I totally agree with that. It's time for the dry bones to stand up. And on that note, brother, we are out. Very much, brother.